Washington state hosts a lot of U.S. Navy ships. 2 are aircraft carriers, and right now the Navy will only say the USS Nimitz is deployed, but won't say where. Could it be in the disputed South China Sea? Tensions grew this week as once again, the U.S. Navy reminded China that the South China Sea is open to navigation as it sent the destroyer USS Barry 12 miles offshore of the disputed Paracel Islands. China's official media says that nation's military sent the American ship packing. The U.S. Navy said the Barry simply had made its point and kept on sailing. The Barry is based in Japan, but could future Navy moves in the South China Sea involve ships based in Washington state? The South China Sea, bordered principally by China, Vietnam, Malaysia, and the Philippines, has been the home of a sort of Cold War between the US and allies for years. Those allies include Japan and Australia pushing back at China, which asserts that the big body of water belongs to it. The South China Sea hosts some of the world's busiest shipping lanes, and major reserves of oil and gas are believed to exist underneath it, just waiting to be tapped once prices improve. This is the 4th or 5th U.S. freedom of navigation operation in the South China Sea this year, said David Bachman, the Henry M. Jackson Professor of International Studies at the University of Washington. An expert on China and its politics, Bachman says tensions are building, and the current state of the world economy and President Donald Trump's current drive to blame China for the coronavirus pandemic are making things worse. This fits into the big picture for the United States of negative things going on in China. Certainly Hong Kong, certainly the South China Sea, obviously the arguments and fights about COVID-19 and, of course, we signed this trade deal on January 15, where it's quite clear that China won't be able to fulfill that trade deal, explained Bachman. Protests have flared up in Hong Kong again, as the central government under President Xi Jinping renews its push for laws that would force more control over the semi-autonomous region that was a British colony until 1997. Tensions are spreading around the region. The Chinese just sunk a Vietnamese fishing vessel. They continue to harass Malaysian oil exploration vessels. There's little doubt in my mind that the Chinese continue to push the envelope, said retired 4-star U.S. Army General Barry McCaffrey, who lives in Washington state and is a military consultant and commentator for NBC News. I do not think they are actively considering confronting the U.S. Navy freedom of navigation exercises. There is a lot of posturing, said McCaffrey. They now have 27 military outposts in the Spratlys and the Paracel Islands. The Chinese have created a series of artificial islands complete with runways and harbors. McCaffrey doesn't think the U.S. will maintain an aircraft carrier in the South China Sea if a hot war ensues because of the risk of shore-launched anti-ship missiles. But clearly the nation's carrier fleet, including the USS Theodore Roosevelt, are spending time there and sending messages. The Roosevelt making a visit to Vietnam in early March. The U.S. Navy bases 2 large carriers in Washington state that now include the USS Carl Vinson and the USS Nimitz. The Navy will only say that the Nimitz is currently deployed. Related. Who bows to calls from countries for independent virus probe, the economic superpowers of the U.S. and China are intertwined. Washington is not only a major port that handles cargo heading into and out of the U.S., but China is also Boeing's biggest national customer for new aircraft and has even hosted China's President Xi in its factories. Professor Bachman says that economic relationship is at risk. We have a slow-motion effort to separate these 2 economies, said Bachman. It will be quite painful for both sides. The South China Sea remains a strategically important route for access to Southeast Asia. While China claims that it enjoys sovereign rights over much of the relevant waters, the tensions continue to grow as the White House accuses Beijing of exploiting the coronavirus pandemic in order to strengthen its presence in the region. Following the US, now Australia has raised concerns over the presence of Chinese military vessels in the disputed South China Sea. Referring to the increasing presence of Chinese vessels in the area, the Indian website The Economic Times quoted Australia's High Commissioner to India Barry O'Farrell as calling it actions to disrupt other countries' resource exploitation activities and the dangerous and coercive use of Coast Guard vessels and so-called maritime militias. Tensions in the region have grown as Washington also intensified its military activities in 2020 under the pretext of upholding freedom of navigation in the region. The South China Sea remains disputed as China claims ownership over significant patches of the area, which is countered by 4 other nations. Beijing has also built military installations in the region, insisting that they are purely of a defensive nature. Its vessels and aircraft will continue their operations in the region and support other nations doing the same, The Economic Times quoted O'Farrell as saying. The White House has also accused Chinese authorities of exploiting the coronavirus pandemic to strengthen their regional hold. The People's Republic of China is attempting to use the regional focus on COVID-19 to assertively advance its own interests, U.S. Navy Captain Michael Kafka, a spokesperson for the American military's Indo-Pacific Command, told CNN. The Australian High Commissioner to India, who urged all parties to take meaningful steps to ease tensions and build trust, including through dialogue, has said that all territorial disputes need to be settled in accordance with international law, and acts of coercion could lead to escalation.